I left my water, but we'll figure that out later. All right. Hi. How is everyone? Holy cow, last talk, no pressure. We're going to just dig in. Thank you so much for the water. And I've got a little motivational video for you.
Do it! Just do it! Don't let your dreams be dreams. Yesterday, you said tomorrow. So just do it! Make your dreams come true!
I love it. How many of you would say that you do quality work? You care about the quality of your work? Yes. So for 17 years, I was a designer. For 15 of those 17 years, I cared about quality. I was like pixel precision, perfection, quality. It was what set me apart in my world as a designer. It's what propelled me forward in my career. It helped me progress really rapidly as a young designer into being a senior designer. I got great work. Doors opened. Owned my own agency before I was 30. It was awesome. Big brands, big agencies. It was cool. It was great. It was great. And then, in 2012, I had this really unexpected run-in with burnout. I don't know about you, but I've had burnout in different ways. Sometimes you see it coming. Sometimes it's like, oh, you've just been grinding on a project. And sometimes it comes out of nowhere. And for me, this one came with the loss of my dad in 2012. Now, when it happened, I thought, because I loved my work, because I was good at my work, that I knew how to get through this loss. And the reason I thought that is because I had experienced loss before. I actually lost my brother when I was 11 years old. I lost my 15-year-old brother. And then when I was 27 years old, I lost my mom. And all very unexpected. And I swear to you, work was the thing that got me through, especially with the loss of my mom. Work was the thing that I could pour my soul and my pain and my passion into, and it actually made my work better. And because I was a designer, and I had chosen that career because I loved it, I felt like it made my work better. It propelled me forward. But for some reason, this 2012 loss of my dad came along, and everything that I thought I knew about getting through it didn't work anymore. Somehow, instead of working through it, and I tried 8 months, so, it's like 5, 6, 7 months, I'm like, I can work through it. It wasn't happening. I wasn't connecting with my work anymore. And so when that's the only thing you've done for 15, and it was actually about, 15 years at that time, when that's the only thing you've done and you can't connect through it, you can't do it anymore. I was literally reaching the point where I was feeling physically ill if I would try to make more products. And so I was making mobile apps for a company, and I eventually quit my job, basically. It was that bad. Not really sure what I was going to do next. And I ended up, I do a talk on burnout, and this isn't that talk, believe it or not. I do a talk on burnout, and I share the experience of how I spent the first year of working through it by treating my life as if it were the product I were designing. Instead of designing products, I shifted that process on myself. Now, this talk is a little bit more about, it's kind of the follow-up to that. this talk is where, after kind of doing that, and I saw really amazing progress of working through burnout, I needed to sustain and nourish my creativity. And it was something that I had all these things that I really wanted to do. How many of you have things that you want to do? Whether it's like it's a side project or just things on a list, we have things we want to do, right? Or be a better developer. That's why we're here, right? and so like I had all these things that I wanted to do. And yet I was trying to work through this burnout. In my first year, I'd taken coaching certification. I was like, I can't design any more products. I got to figure something else out. And I knew coaches help people, and I wanted to figure out how coaches were helping people. So I took certification. I did integral certification, which took like a year, and that's the life coaching side. And then I took strategic coaching, which was the business and corporate side, like executive coaching. And those helped me kind of, figure out how to work through my stuff. And what I was finding, though, is that, okay, nourishing this creative side, I needed to figure out, like, what it was. I had a list of things that I wanted to do, tons of things that I wanted to do. I actually have a metal sculpture degree, and I haven't welded since I was in college. And, it was just like little things, writing, vlogging, making videos, doing fun stuff. I have all these things I wanted to do, but what I was realizing is that for everything that I wanted to do, I was coming up with excuses. And at the time, and in the framework of mind that I was in, I'd experienced this crazy loss, and to me, crazy loss. But I had experienced this very traumatic event, and I was in this kind of interesting space of, well, I can't do this because. Like, how many of you have ever started a sentence with that? Well, I can't because I don't have time. I can't afford it. I got a day job. Like, I have bills to pay. I'm an independent mom. I choose that word over single mom because I do have a boyfriend, but I'm an independent mom with 2 little girls, and I do have a mortgage to pay, and I have mouths to feed and those sorts of things. And so those were really real situations. They weren't excuses to me. They were real things and real reasons that I couldn't address the things that I wanted to address. And what I realized was that quality had become an excuse for me. An excuse that stopped me from doing things that I could actually be doing if I get out of my own way. And when I say quality become an excuse, I'm using it in the context of creative nourishment. And I want to make sure that I always note the importance that there is a time and a place for quality. And I'm not in any way advocating just disregard quality, but in the context of doing experimental and creative things and doing those things on their life list, let go. Let go. That's what I had to do. I had to identify that quality was an excuse and then figure out how to get out of my own way. And so that's what I want to share with you is like 6 things that helped me do that and have actually changed my life in quite a significant way. All right, so the first one, I know this seems really obvious, but start somewhere. Of course we want to start somewhere, but I had on my list so many things that I really wanted to get to. I wasn't really sure where to start. What seemed like a logical place to start when you're overwhelmed and you're just like, I just want to do something, but I'm paralyzed by options. Sometimes we actually need constraints in order to start moving. And so this is where I started. I started by asking myself what's important. And that actually came from a conversation with a friend of mine who, when I was in like the deepest depths of burnout, and I was like, I don't know what's next. And he says to me, it's not about what's next, it's about what's important. And that caused me to make this crazy list. It's okay if you can't read it all, it doesn't really matter. It's like, but it made this list. I made this list of what was important to me at that moment when he said that, in burnout, in loss. And I was like, okay, these are the things that are important to me, and none of them have to do with anything I do for work. And so that first year, I focused on the 5. This was like my working through burnout. It's kind of like if this were a product, this is my MVP, my minimum viable product. And so this would be features and iteration. And so this is where we're focused. I was like, okay, all right, so where do I start? What's important to me? Got through these things pretty well. Now I'm going to focus on these. Can I kill these 3 birds with 1 stone? Yes, I can. And so I started to just kind of figure out, okay, in order to pick what I'm going to do, what sort of thing, write more is a thing that I really wanted to do. I was like, okay, I can do those 3 things. Let's bring those 3 things up again really quick. Contribute something positive to the world. If it seems scary, go for it, like public speaking. Write more, write a lot more. And so these were the things that I came up with, right? Like if I could write something positive and share it publicly, that would kill those 3 birds. It's terrifying. And so what I'd had my eye on this thing. I don't know if anybody's heard of it, but it's called National Novel Writing Month. I thought this would be a great structure. It's a thing where basically in every November, they do it's like a competition, and you can participate, you sign up for free, and you write a 50,000-word novel in 30 days. In the month of November. And I just thought this would be so much fun and so cool. And then I started to really think about it, and I was like, oh my gosh, 50,000 words in 30 days. And I started to make excuses. And so 2011, I actually learned about this, and every year I'd excuse myself out of it. I don't have time. I'm a mom. I've got bills to pay. And that brings me to number 2, right? Seriously start. Seriously start. Like, you can excuse yourself out of it all day long. Now, what I realized about NaNoWriMo, that's the National Novel Writing Month, little abbreviation, NaNoWriMo, what I realized is that NaNoWriMo was still too big for me. 1,667 words a day for 30 days was too much for me. My little brain just couldn't figure out how to justify doing that every day for 30 days. And then I saw this fantastic quote, which kind of kicked me in the butt and said, well, if it's too big, then how do I do this anyway? How do I do it anyway, even though it's too big? And it reminded me of this movie called What About Bob? Anybody seen What About Bob? All right, well, there's this guy, Dr. Leo Marvin, who writes a book called Baby Steps, and he gives it to his client, his sort of off-patient client, who's played by Bill Murray, and he says, baby steps, Bob, baby steps through the door, baby steps down the hall to get him out of his office, just like baby steps. And I realized I have to what about Bob myself on this and break it down into baby steps. There's really good material here. I've never read, I don't think it's a real book, but anyway, you understand. So what I decided to do was take the framework of NaNoWriMo and create my own little competition. So fast forward, I had learned about it 2011, and in 2014, I decided I was gearing up for it, and then I realized, okay, not gonna happen, and I missed 2014 again. And so what I decided to do is I took my little writing structure, that little write something positive, put it out publicly, and I'd never tried Medium before, so I thought I can use that as my platform to post something publicly. I could try a new thing that I'd never tried but had been wanting to try. And I created my own rules. So NaNoWriMo is 1,667. I would just do 1 post per day for 30 minutes. I would do no word count, as long as I was writing within the time frame. And I would do no editing, and I would post it for the world to read. And that's always where we get a little intimidated. It's like, oh, the world is going to read this. Like, really? I've never posted anything on Medium before. Do I really think the entire world is going to read it? No. But that was what, that was what I had to do, was break it down really small. And immediately I started thinking about reasons why I couldn't do it. Immediately, even though I'd created these really, really easy to grasp my mind around rules, I started thinking, oh, but I don't have thumbnails for these. And what I had decided to do was a gratitude project. 31 days of December I would start, because I'd missed NaNoWriMo November month. I would do gratitude. And for every day of December, I'll write about 1 person who contributed something to my life that I'm grateful for. And excusing myself out of it, and then I remembered that great quote, and then I did it. So this is just a screenshot of my publication from Medium, where I actually, I started and I did it, and I saw it through for 31 days. And really amazing things started to happen just from moving, just from starting. I got like 7 days in, and people would read them. I would share them, and people would respond. People who I was writing about, where applicable, sometimes they would respond and be like, whoa, I never knew that you felt that way about me. Thank you for writing that. And it rekindled connections that I hadn't had in many years. So that was like an unexpected side effect. But by the time I got to like day 27, day 28, I could see the end, right? Like I'd gotten over the hump and the hard part, and I was like, oh, this feels awesome. I need more. What am I gonna do in January? So it was really cool because I created this framework and I had made it to the end, and then I was hungry for more and I had to figure out what I was gonna do next. And so I did that. So it kind of started perpetuating, right? So my next thing was I wanted to create videos. Not so much because I wanted to create videos, but like my boyfriend was always like, you should make videos because you're much more personable when people see you than when you're just writing. Anyway, so I was like, okay, I should make videos. But also my little girls, I have an 11 and a 7-year-old. They were younger when I started this, but they want to make YouTube videos. They want to be YouTube sensations. They watch YouTube. So I needed to understand it. I hadn't dabbled in it very much at the time, and I needed to be familiar with it. And what I found, though, is like all these YouTubers are making amazing work. Like they're all nicely shot, nicely lit, and I found it very intimidating. And I was like, what am I going to make? What am I going to talk about? What am I going to say? Is it going to be good? And so what I realized, and this leads me to my third little tip, is that we need to seek inspiration. But it's not just seeking inspiration, because I easily get inspired by things that are exciting and beautiful. What I needed to do was find inspiration that met me where I was at. Inspiration that was a little bit like, it allowed me to take a step back from the quality of my expectation. I want it to be well lit and edited and very well told and very thought through. But there's this guy who I found on the internet called Adam the Woo. And this guy, he's like 40, and he decided one day that he didn't like the way his life was. He was stocking shelves at a retail store, and he didn't like his life. So he's like, you know what? Selling all my stuff, gonna move into my van, and I'm gonna video my adventures. I'm gonna go on adventures. And he toured around America, and he shot these on his little iPhone 5. He shot videos, and he would roughly edit them together and post them. But it wasn't this channel. He actually has, so this one has about 200,000 subscribers, which I find very impressive. Just over the course of doing his thing, every month he was doing these adventure videos. But he has this other channel, a second, less popular channel called The Daily Woo, where he just does a daily vlog. He holds his camera out in front of him. Sometimes his hand is covering the microphone. The audio quality isn't awesome all the time, but he does it. And what I loved, what appealed to me about this was he was so honest. He's so positive, and like there's enough negative nastiness out in the world. And here's a guy that's just doing his thing, and he's putting it out into the world in the most honest way that he knows. And he's done it. I think on here I have 1,405. But he's probably 200 days beyond this at this point. And he's evolved it a little bit. He's editing it now. But every day for at least 1,405, it was an unedited, uncut, just completely raw video. Sometimes they were 2 minutes, sometimes they were 20 minutes. And they were always interesting. I find them very interesting and very honest. And I loved that. And that met me where I was at. It was like his work was saying to me, you know what, he can put this out there, and he can tell a compelling story just by vlogging what he's doing. And it was really interesting. And it wasn't well lit or well shot, and the audio wasn't awesome. But it kind of reminded me of this thing that Austin Kleon wrote, which was be an amateur. If you've never read Austin Kleon's work, I really advise you to please pick up this book. He has a couple books, but this one in particular, this page in particular, really spoke to me. And it gave me the permission to make this magical gem of my first YouTube video, which is me at 4:30 in the morning in January, a very cold time of morning, in my garage, where I look like I'm being held hostage. And, it's not the best thing, and I did it I did a series of gratitude, or no, inspiration. Gratitude was the month before. So January, my theme was inspiration. And my first post was to Adam the Woo. And so yeah, this was my 4-minute where I frame my little outline and then I talk into the camera and I talk about why he's my inspiration and thank you. And that was my first video. And I come from a user experience background, design background, and Jesse James Garrett, well-known UX dude, always says, throw your product out there. You fail or you succeed, you learn and you try again. And that was the philosophy. Once I got something out there, I had something to compare it to. But I started. And over time, I learned a little bit. I never got super good, right? But I turned on lights. I learned what audio sounded good. I took a shower. I waited a little later in the day. So, and then I started experimenting from there. And it kind of I learned. Along the way, I learned. And I felt free because I didn't hold myself back with quality. I went really, really, really unquality, right? And they got a little better, and I started experimenting with stuff. Oh, yeah, I had black hair before. But yeah, I started experimenting, and this was a funny thing. When you start experimenting, ideas start flowing in like crazy. It's like a floodgate opens somehow, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, I could talk about this. And one day I decided to talk about my process for writing talks. And I just did it, same. Usually my videos have between 30 and maybe 300 views. And for whatever reason, this topic somebody did a blog post about it, and then other people watched it, and I got 5,000 views, and most importantly, my first thumbs down. I was so excited because I was like, oh my gosh, somebody took time out of their day to give me a thumbs down. I actually felt really awesome about it. I'm still kind of excited. I checked it just yesterday to see if it was still just one thumbs down, and it is. It's still just one, and about the exact same amount of views. I think there was 70 more, but it was interesting because it helped me uncover something to talk about. It helped me uncover, which is this then became another 30-day challenge that I did. And I ended up doing these month after month after month. I created new challenges over time. And that was the thing, is I kept them small and digestible. Because I realized that anytime, and this is something I learned from doing the YouTube videos, anytime I tried to do them, sometimes I'd miss this time window. If I did them too late, I wouldn't get them done, because your day gets going, and you get kids to school, and I gotta pick them up from school, and I've gotta work, and all of these things in your day, life gets in the way at times. And I realized that the more that I tried to find the time, the harder it was to actually locate it. I couldn't find time. And what I realized is that, from making products, I'm very, very, very specific about semantics and our word choices. And I realized that, okay, I just gone through this process of designing my life as if it were a product. I need to be really mindful about the word choices I use, the ones that come out of my own mouth and the ones that psychologically play over and over. And if I'm saying find time, then I'm actively kind of searching for it, well, passively, really. And so I needed to be more specific, and I needed to make time. And when I changed that little tiny psychological thing in my mind, time actually started appearing. And I know that's a little bit funny, but you don't ever find time. You either make it or you haven't got any. And what I did to start making time is I used a little bit of a technique from designing products, which is anytime you're trying to psychologically change somebody's behavior, you do it around trigger, action, reward. And what I had done was use this method and try to create little pockets of time. And so I used this example of drinking more water because I started very, very small early on when I was going through that burnout stuff. I started with drinking more water, and it wasn't even drinking more water. It was finding a pocket of time in my day, which was when I wake up in the morning. That was something I consistently was doing every day. So far, so good. Without, it didn't matter where I was. If I woke up at, in Germany or whatever, as long as I woke up, that was the thing I did. That was my trigger. My action was fill my water glass. And my reward? A physical manifestation that says, I did it. So that was my pose. I'll explain why in a minute. So drinking more water, that was where I started. It was fill my water glass, and it became, and that created a pocket of time in my day. And that little pocket of time was something I started experimenting with and expanding. So I started looking for more pockets of time in my day. What am I doing while my coffee is brewing? Could I do one push-up every time my coffee is brewing? Tone those arms up, if that's a goal on my list. There are lots of little things that you can find. If that's a goal that you have to tone up a little bit or something, you can find these little pockets of time where you can go, oh, I could use that pocket of time better than I am. And you start wedging little things into there, positive behavior things, and you create these pockets of time. Now, with my waking up in the morning and doing my writing posts, I'd created these pockets of time, and I was able to kind of expand them. And that's become, over time, my writing time, my video making time, or whatever my little activity is for the month, it's become my pocket of time. So I try to fill it. Now, there are times when things happen, right? And you get into this nice rhythm of doing stuff, and then something happens. Something happens. And I mean, I'll tell you about the third month that I did my videos. I had a trip overseas, actually to UIKonf last year, to do a talk, and I couldn't get my video to upload while I was there. I just could not get my video to upload. So I missed a day, and then I missed 2 days, and then I missed 3 days. And by the time I flew home, I had missed 5 days. And internally, I was like, oh my gosh, like there's no point in finishing out March. I've missed 5 days. So I let 5 more days go. And by the time I got to the 10th day, I still had about 8 days left in the month. And I was like, you know what? I can't stop now. I had created this hunger to do these things and to not just start, right? Like, how many of you are really good at actually starting things, but it's the finishing that you have a hard time with? So I had become very good at starting things. I was starting stuff all over town. Have I mentioned how many domain names I have for great ideas that I've started? So I have a lot of them. But when I think about Don't Give Up, I think about Rocky. If you love the movie Rocky, I love the movie Rocky. This is why I have this pose. There's this moment in the movie Rocky where Rocky's realizing like he's not going to beat Apollo Creed, and he's saying, you know what, Adrian, it doesn't matter if I lose this fight. All I want to do is go the distance. And this inspires me. This is like the secret of life for me, because I realize that, you know what, maybe things happen, and maybe things swoop in and knock you off your game. But if you keep going, you're going to learn from it. And you're going to finish, and that feeling of finishing, it feeds whatever it is that wants to make you keep going. It keeps feeding it, and it's so awesome. It's so awesome, that feeling. And so what I've started doing from this, and I fall off every once in a while. You'll see if you follow my little challenges, and I'll explain those in a minute too, but every once in a while I'll just stop, and stuff happens, and then I try to finish. I try to pick it up, because finishing has become more of a goal than starting now that I've gotten into that regular routine of starting. What I try to do is do something small every day, and by small I mean, maybe fill your water glass. Start with something that you can do in 2 minutes or less a day. And this evolved into something that I call tiny challenges now. And there's a whole little community of people doing tiny challenges along with me. And it's really cool. And even Daniel Steinberg, who spoke before, we had a little podcast. We did 1 season of a podcast called Tiny Challenges. We even had Austin Kleon on, who was awesome in talking about doing something small every day. And it's interesting when you start to do something small every day, you don't really think about it because you're focused on doing something small every single day. And over time, if you make a little visual indicator, you're kind of like, whoa, look what I did in 1 month. Look at all those little X's. Or with me, I looked back at my videos from last year. I was just, 1 month challenges at a time, and I think I did a few, but I ended up with 150 videos that I made last year. What? I didn't plan to make 150 videos, because I guarantee you if I'd set out to make 150 videos, I would have been intimidated long before I started, because who has time for that? But when I focused on making something small every single day, eventually, I started checking off days off the calendar, and you build a body of work after a while. It became a thing called Tiny Challenges. It became a podcast. It's a Slack community, and it's small. But I was actually invited to a conference last month in New Orleans specifically because they'd heard of Tiny Challenges, and they just wanted me to come see if there was anything I could do a tiny challenge about at their conference. I thought that was interesting. I explored. This guy, Jonathan Mann, He's a Song a Day man on YouTube. I'm very inspired by him. I met him at Yosemite conference this year, and he was also at Layers conference last year in San Francisco. And he does a song every day and has been doing this for 8 years. I'm so impressed by this guy. Like, 8 years, what? That's a body of work. And you can guarantee, like, this stuff comes more easily to him now. And he pushes, he finds new ways to challenge and grow his skill. But he picked a thing. He started somewhere, and he kept going. He kept going. I have this very little clip here, very short. It sounds so simple, and it's like, oh yeah, but this guy probably doesn't have whatever our excuses are, right? But the more I started thinking about these things, the things that I was excusing myself out of, okay, so last year, I decided, like, I gotta do this. I gotta do NaNoWriMo. And I was actually really scared, and there was a Twitter badgerer who was like poking at me. Are you going to do it this year? Are you going to do it this year? Because I saw you talk about it in your talk, and you hadn't done it yet. And what are you scared of? And I was like, I'm not scared. I've been cross-training for this with my tiny challenges. And but I was scared, and I realized that I was actually scared because I didn't want to fail. But I went ahead and started with the full expectation that I would fail. And guess what? I did not fail. I finished 50,133 words in 21 days because I was doing a little bit extra. Yes, thank you. Yes. So like, it's really kind of interesting. Like writing a book was never really like the big goal, but just participating in the challenge was. Like, I love to write, and I want to do it more, and I did that challenge, and I completed it, and then guess what happened? Like, I was introduced to somebody who'd been I've been a fan of for many years, and she's a writer, and I always thought she was really cool, and I'm not going to give too much of the story because I hope I'll have another talk about this next year, but she's editing my book. And that's awesome. My first book, I've never written a book before, and now I have this pile of crap that needs a lot of help. And she's helping me with it. And like, dude, if I hadn't started with, whatever, I wouldn't have this. It feels so good. So I have one more little tip. And there's somebody who can say this way better than I can. So one more little video, bear with me.
When you grow up, you
Right? So I want to say, like, the more I do poke at life in these small little ways, the more things do change. Like, dude, he's right. Like, I have no strange notion that I'll ever do anything, like, great and fantastic like Steve Jobs, right? But, like, that's not the point. It's not about being like Steve Jobs. It's about practicing that sort of mentality and that sort of thought set. I love that. I love poking life. And honestly, the more I do, the more crazy things get. Do you know, this is my first time in Germany, and I've wanted to go to Germany since I was like 18. And it was always like, oh, it's too expensive, it's too far, who has time? Here I am, I'm in Germany, oh my gosh, because I was poking life and speaking at conferences, which is terrifying. But we started somewhere, right? Life is super short. I know we hear this all the time. Life is super short. I had one of my coaching clients actually say to me, maybe life isn't short. Maybe it's the single longest experience we ever have. I love that. I love that. I just want to say, like, think about the excuses or reasons that you have. Get them out of the way. If quality is an excuse for you, get it out of the way. Step back. Quality can be in your work. That's fine. Let it be. Let it live through your work. But find a place to play, to poke life. Oh, it's so crazy good, you guys. So crazy good. I do want to do one thing, if I could ask, well, two favors of you. One, before we go, so you saw me taking a photo probably. The first one, let me do one and then two. One, can we give a hand to the whole staff of UIKonf? We just, thank you. Audio crew, coffee, drinks, everyone who's been a part of making this. Okay, and this one might be a little awkward for you, and I've never asked people to be super awkward, but I'm going to do this time because we're in Germany and why not? Okay, so I have this little book, and every day my monthly challenge for May is to post on a sticky note one thing that I'm grateful for in the month of May. Gratitude is a great fallback when you don't know what else to do. And so every day, and today's is this. It's you. And I'm wondering if you would do me a huge favor and let me photograph you doing Rocky pose. Will you please stand up and give me a Rocky pose? Woo! Come on. I'm going to photograph you. Yes. Hold on. Of course this would happen. Oh, you guys are too good for me. Okay, hold on. Here we go. All right. Yes, thank you so much. You guys are awesome. We did it. You survived. Thank you.